Welcome to the Grandpa Channel, where stories don't fade, they get recorded. I'm Steve Harris. My grandkids call me Rivers. This podcast is where grandpas and grandchildren pull up a chair, turn on a mic, and let her rip. Grandpa stories are chock full of wisdom, life lessons, and frankly, funny as hell. Your stories are the magic elixir to help your grandkids navigate Mr. Toad's wild ride, aka life. Let's Grandpa. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Grandpa Channel. We have a delightful guest here with us, Mollie Diamond, Mollie Warner Diamond. Mollie is near and dear to all of our hearts because she's a really good friend with my oldest daughter, Emily. And she had the most amazing dad, Wid, who is one of my really, really good friends. And we invited her on, and we want to just go on a fun little journey of discovery as we talk about grandpas and stories. And I'd like to welcome Mollie.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me.
We already had chatting before. Anyway, it's so much fun to have you here. And it's a beautiful fall, not quite fall day here, and colors are starting to change, and it's my favorite time of the year.
Mine too.
And I love the opportunity. I've been doing a lot of thinking about my wonderful experiences with WHIP. So tell me just a little bit about yourself and your family, and then I want you to take off in any direction that you want to go.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. I was so thrilled to be here. I love the Harris family so much. I am Mollie Warner Diamond. I'm proud to be a Warner. I'm also proud to be a Diamond. I grew up here in Salt Lake. I went to Highland High School. My parents both grew up here. I have 3 siblings that are younger. I'm the oldest. And then I married Joel Diamond, and he grew up here as well. And now we have 4 of our own kids.
What's the age range?
The age range is from 20 down to 12. Wow. So I know it's crazy how time flies.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What else do you want to know?
Well, tell me a little bit from your angle about your dad.
Okay, so my dad was incredible. I almost can't find the words because he was so impactful on my life. He passed away 5 years ago. I can't believe that it's been that long. And he was such a light. Anyone who knew Wid loved him. He was very easy to love, very humble, meek, kind.
Spiritual.
He was a spiritual giant. We could always talk spiritual, very supportive, my biggest fan, and very non-judgmental. I never felt like I wasn't good enough. I never felt like his love was conditional. He just loved no matter what. I felt like because of the trials that he had been through in life, he knew Jesus better than anyone that I knew. And so he then was able to emulate a Christ-like life and live a Christ-like life because he knew Jesus so well. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Yeah.
And so that's something that I came to really appreciate about him. He was a very comfortable person. At his funeral, I spoke about the comfort level that he was in my life and for a lot of other people. He just was an incredible person. I don't think that, you couldn't Google him. He didn't have any big accolades, but if you knew him, you loved him, you adored him. He was incredible.
And speaking from a friend's standpoint, he was a great friend.
He was.
Males are cool in only a couple of different areas. One is just so we can pick up friendships. We didn't have to be on the phone with each other every other day. But the minute that we were together was just like, boom, he picked right back up.
Sure.
And so give us a little bit of a summary of and I think this is very much a part of help Wid become Wid was his health. Unfortunately, I wished it wasn't the case, but
I know. Me too.
Yeah.
Before I go into that, Steve, I should have said in my explanation of him, because the podcast is the podcast, that he was A+ grandpa. He really was. My kids cherish their relationship and the years that they had with him.
And let me tell you, if Wid hadn't passed away, if he was still alive, right up at the top.
Yeah.
He would have already been on.
I'm sure.
And I think I want to send it out to the heavens that if he wants to come on as a guest, I'm all
He should
for it.
come.
Yeah, just come.
I love it.
I think it'd be really cool.
Will you let me know?
Yeah, I will.
I will. Just like keep me posted.
I'll keep you posted.
He was fiercely loyal to those that he loved, including his grandchildren. And he was at every game, every recital, every event, every birthday, us supporting and loving. His health journey was a story, I will say. And you know.
Yeah, give us an idea.
Yeah, so when he was, I think he was 27 when I was born.
Yeah.
And you would know better because
I kind of know the general parameters. Yes. Yeah, we were friends before this hit because of your mom and my wife.
Right, my mom and Jean were friends, sandbox friends, since they were babies and grew up on the same street. Yeah. And then you all became friends when you were married, and that's how Em and I became friends. And I'm so grateful for that. But his kidneys failed right before I was born, which was 1981. They went to Seattle for a kidney transplant. My grandpa was a physician and had a friend there that did the transplant. My mom lived on their boat with my grandma for a month. She was 8 months pregnant with me. My mom then brought my dad back. He was still in recovery mode when I came a month early. And then from there, it begun. That was sort of the catalyst of a lifetime of health struggles. He had struggles with his heart. He had a pacemaker at his time of death. He had struggles with skin cancer that was primarily brought on by the anti-rejection drugs that he took for his kidney. That was eventually what took him, was that cancer. It just couldn't be controlled any longer. He was in and out of the hospital constantly. Half of the time we didn't even know about it because he was so humble. He didn't want the attention, you know?
I used to ask him, Mollie, I'd say, how many times have you been under the knife? And then he'd say, it's beautiful weather, Steve. And I said, no, Swift, you got to focus on this question. How many times have you been in operations and been kind of worked on? And then he tried to change the subject again, but then finally he came up with some outrageous number, and I knew he wasn't pulling my leg. It was just amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I one time asked him, I said, I think it was the year before he died, he had contracted the flu, and it was, to one of us, it would be something that we would just maybe be in bed for a few days and have a fever and whatever. But to him, his immune system was really shot. So he was actually septic within 24 hours and in the hospital. And I remember he was in the ICU, and I remember sitting, next to him in his hospital room. And I asked him, I said, how do you keep doing this? How do you continue to just like be so strong and get through this and have a smile on your face? And he's cracking jokes. Yeah. And oftentimes he would be laying in a hospital gown in a bed after a procedure, a big thing like a heart thing or this influenza. And he would be singing church songs. There is sunshine in my soul. Oh yeah. And he'd still be kind of coming off the anesthesia, and he would just sort of be singing, there is sunshine in my soul today. And we would get out our phones and quickly record. Really? And that was just him. Yeah. That was just him. And I said, how do you keep doing it? And he said, well, Jesus. Anyway.
Sometimes when I was feeling really down, we'd had some economic travails for a while. I'd look at my wife on like a Friday night and I'd say, let's go see Whip. Because it would sort of snap me out of the doldrums that I was in. And, and he was a great listener too.
He was such a good listener. Just would let me go and go and go.
And I like the aspect of him too, his athletic endeavors, to being a very good wrestler on a university level. But I think that I loved how he finished it out. Speak to that a little bit.
He was once he discovered a passion, he was all in. And I would say that wrestling was one of those things. He didn't have very many passions, but when he found one, he was 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And he told us endless stories of his wrestling. He had so many life lessons that had come from that. So he would, even when he was a father and had gotten sick and he wasn't wrestling anymore, we were still wrestling on the carpet downstairs. He was still friends with his wrestling coach. The day that he died, we knew multiple stories. He was in it to win it. And not just to win, but to say that he gave it his all. He was just that kind of person. I was telling you, Steve, you and Emily, before this started, that he wrestled in high school, and then he, really found a love for it. And then he went on and wrestled at the U. Mm-hmm. And then he even went to the Olympic trials, knowing that he probably wouldn't qualify, but that was just his heart, just in it, 110%.
Mm-hmm. Heart of a lion.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What kind of stories come to your mind? I'm sure you've been thinking about this before coming over.
I have.
Tell me some stories about what.
Let me grab my notes. I do have some stories. I have so many. Yeah. And I actually, before I came, I was talking to my kids about this, because I kind of wanted to pick their brains too, since they're the grandchildren of this amazing Wid. There were a couple things that came to my mind. One was, just as a grandpa, I have vivid memories of him babysitting, me leaving, and then walking back in the door and witnessing his grandfathering, if you will. And one time I remember Joel and I were taking an institute class at the U. Tate was one, I think, had just started eating solid foods. And we walked in the door from institute, and my dad has set aside all the baby food that we brought for him to feed him. And he's made a big bowl of cream of wheat, and he's made it with cream. Heavy cream, because Tate was a tiny little baby, really skinny. He wanted to fatten him up. And he put sliced bananas in there, some brown sugar and some cream. Moll, I'm telling you, sweetie, this is it. This is what he needs to be eating.
I can hear that.
Sweetie, this is what he needs to be eating.
Yeah.
And I was like, Dad, thank you. This is so great. And Tate loved it. He loved it. We loved anything Gramps. Anything Gramps was what Tate loved. But so then we started taking him over every week for this institute class. And every night we knew, don't pack a dinner for Tate, because he'd have creamy cream of wheat with bananas with my dad. And then another time we came home, and they had set up in my parents' kitchen, there was like a bar with stools, and they'd set up on the stools a bunch of like plastic army men. And then they would sit on this bench that was on the other side of the kitchen, and they would shoot elastics at the army men and see how many of them they could get down.
Wow.
And that became a fun tradition. Tate was the first grandchild. And he's like years older than many of the grandchildren. And so he got a lot of quality time with my dad. And another time, Tate was obsessed with that movie Cars. So Tate would bring his cars over to my parents' house, and my parents also had lots of great toys for the kids. And then they had like this on their stairs. It was sort of this like, not a banister, or like, I guess it was a banister, not a railing, but like right next to the stairs, there was like an opening to the family room. And so it was kind of this flat, like 6-inch, like spot where they could just roll the cars down, because it was wood. And they would roll those cars down. And then when the car wouldn't make it all the way down and it would fall down too early, my dad would say, Duddo. And that was so fun. And Tate would say, I want to play Duddo with Gramps. Yeah. So just like he was so good at like the little things, at making everything really exciting, even though it was small. These little games that he would make up. They wouldn't play games that were like already a thing. Like they weren't playing like Candyland. They were playing
Terrible game, by the way.
terrible game. They were playing games that my dad had made up
Really?
with his imagination. And then we would go another story about Tate. This started when we lived with my parents. So at one point in 2012, we moved into my parents' house. I was pregnant with one of my girls. Joel was getting his master's at the U, and we decided to knock down our house and rebuild. And my parents were so sweet and let us come live with them. We were there for 7 months. We moved in January. And so it was just like a crazy winter with tons of snow. And we got there and the snow just kept falling. And my dad finally just said to Tate, Bud, we got to take care of this. And so they decided that they would make up some names for each other. It was like Joe and
Mac.
Yeah, something like that. Joe and something. And they had this snow removal business. And my dad would say, all right, Joe, get on your coat and your gloves. Yeah. We're heading out. And they would go out. And he was just so good at making a game of things, making everything fun, making everything more joyful. And he just knew how to kind of get down there on their level, which I love. So I just have endless stories. We would play poison pillow with him in the basement. And so they would go down in the family room and he would sit on the couch with all the pillows, all the throw pillows, the fancy pillows that my mom had on the couch. And the kids would go from one bedroom that was on this side of the stairs and run to the other bedroom that was on the other side. And then he would chuck pillows at them. And he would say, poison pillow. And they would try and get past him, And it was just, they loved to go. Because to my parents' house, it was just both of my parents just made it so fun.
Yeah, your mom is a very fun person.
Oh, my mom's incredible.
Yeah.
A+ grandma.
Yeah.
A+ Nana. Oh. Yeah. So that's a very big highlight in my brain from just his being a grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have so many stories, Steve, that I could tell you.
Keep going.
Okay, so something he used to say, and this was something that we said together as a family with him the day before he died. And it's something we had been doing since we were little, since I was little. We would gather in a circle and we would all put our hands in, and he would say, everybody hands in the middle. And we'd all put our hands in the middle, and he would say, okay, I'm going to count to 3, and then you guys say, Yosh, and everybody lift their hands up. And I finally said, Dad, what does Yosh mean? Why have we been saying that for so long? Because I just would do it when we were little, and I didn't know what it meant, but I was just going along with him, And finally, as he was kind of teaching my kids that was a thing, I was like, Dad, what is Yosh? And he finally taught me. He said, well, in Japan, which is where he went on his mission, they would say Yosh. And that means in Japanese, either we've got this or let's go.
Really?
Yes. We got this or let's go.
Let's go.
And my dad loved, it was kind of we would be, ready to embark on a trip or ready to make a plan or play a big game of fox and geese in the backyard or something like that. And
let's go.
He would say, all right, Yosh. Everybody put your hands in and Yosh. Yeah. And we Yoshed over his coffin.
Did you really?
We did. It was so special.
Yeah.
Wow. Speaking of when he died, he said to me and to all of my siblings and my mom and all of our kids, sort of in a quiet, separate way with each of us, very private. I want you to, before I die, write down all of your hopes and dreams for the rest of your life. And he said this to each of us, even my children. Write down all your hopes and dreams for the rest of your life, because I want to study those before I go so that I can then bless you.
Wow.
On the other side of the veil.
Really?
In all the ways of your heart. And so we all typed these up and handed them to him. And I remember it was a couple weeks before he died. I brought him Chick-fil-A one day, and I brought him my hopes and dreams. And I said, Dad, one of my hopes and dreams is that you'll watch over my kids. Please help me watch over my kids. I don't feel like I can do this by myself. And he said, I promise. I promise. And so every time I'm worried about one of my kids or wondering how to parent or not sure which way to go in life, I talk to him, Steve. I talk to him and I say, Daddy, where are you? You promised me. Come and be with me. I need you now. And we ended up putting all of those hopes and dreams papers in with him when he died, because that wasn't for anyone else to know. That was for him.
That's really cool.
So that was the kind of
Have you felt him?
grandpa that he was. I feel him all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, I feel him all the time, and I talk to him all the time. I feel like when I'm driving is kind of my best moment.
So you're not talking into a speakerphone. It's if you're driving.
I'm driving by myself,
Yeah.
and I just say, Daddy, are you there? And I talk to him, and I feel him through my kids, and I feel him with my mom and my siblings, and I feel him a lot. You know my Uncle Homer.
Yes.
They were best friends and so similar.
Were they?
So similar. And they had a really special bond. My dad had Homer's kidney, and they were only 15 months apart. And I feel like there's something in Homer, but I can feel my dad. I can't just see him and see his characteristics, but I can feel him. And so when I'm with Homer, I feel like I'm with my dad.
That's really cool.
And that's also something that's really special for us now to have Homer still in our life.
How do you think that with health issues, as monstrous as they were, how did that impact his grandpa duties, or how did it affect him as a grandpa? Do you think it did? That maybe he knew. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I would guess that would know that he wasn't going to live into his 80s.
No, I do. I agree with you, Steve. I think that, and like I said, this is just me guessing, but I think that he didn't take for granted any of the time. I think that he knew that he needed to live it up. I think that he knew
in a good way.
Right, in a good way, that he cherished all the moments.
Yeah.
That's how I always felt with him. That's how I felt. That's how he made my kids feel.
That's how he made his friends feel.
And that's how he made his friends feel. That every conversation was important. Every time spent together was cherished.
You're making me cry.
You were a good friend, Steve. Wow. You guys had a lot of memories.
I do. So this is a bittersweet thing, because the sweet part obviously is Wid. But the bitter part is separated by death, which, that would be very hard.
It was hard. It was hard. And my kids were old enough when he passed away that they had relationships with him. They had personal relationships, and they had memories and connection. In fact, I asked my girls, tell me some things about Gramps that are in your heart. And he loved the song Clementine. I don't even know who it's by or who sang it, honestly. But he would tuck us in at night and sing this song. Oh my darling.
Oh yeah, it's an old tiny. Yeah.
Oh my darling Clementine. Yeah, he just loved it. He loved it. He couldn't really carry a tune very well. He wasn't a great singer, but there were those songs that when you say the title, I'm like, yep, that's my dad. That's my dad. Yep. And that was one of them. And he passed that on to my kids and all of his grandkids as well. He had a couple of favorite sweatshirts. The man was not a fashion guru.
He was so unlike me, for instance. I was always quite a dandy. Not, but yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why we hit it off so well.
Probably. Yeah. Honestly, he valued the most precious things in life. He did not care about what he was wearing. He wanted to be cozy. I already mentioned comfortable to you. This was my dad was cozy.
Yeah.
And he had a sweatshirt or two that said University of Utah until he died. Yeah. University of Utah.
I've seen him.
But yeah, he loved the U. He was red through and through. And his favorite color was red. Yeah. And I think it was because he was an East High Leopard and he was a Ute.
Yeah.
And he just had, I think, 3 or 4 University of Utah sweatshirts. One in particular before he passed that was gray that said Utah on it. It was a half zip and he wore it every day. Yeah. He wore it every day, Steve. Yeah. It was cozy. Had his alma mater on it. It was his favorite thing. My girls mentioned the sweatshirt. They mentioned Clementine. They mentioned ice cream. and graham crackers.
Ice cream and graham.
Oh yeah, we not together. He loved to put graham crackers in a cup and then pour milk on them. And that was something that my grandpa Homer did as well. He got that from my grandpa Homer, from his dad.
From his dad.
So grams and milk
Yeah.
was his favorite treat.
Really?
If he didn't have ice cream.
He liked ice cream, though.
Oh, he loved ice cream. Every kind, every flavor, every brand, any ice cream. Didn't matter. No, ended the night with ice cream.
Yeah.
Every night. So they mentioned that. And then he also loved James Bond. You know this, Steve. You know this.
I do. Yeah.
He loved the James Bond movies. My girls knew it. All the grandkids knew it. The kids, we have James Bond is part of our souls because of my dad. So he actually passed away in November of 2020. And then very shortly after that, like I'm talking weeks after that, came the last James Bond movie. And why can't I think of the title?
I can't either.
I can't think of the title, but it's going to come to me. Anyway, we went to that, me and my siblings and my mom, and James actually dies in that movie, if you remember. And it was so ironic and fitting, and we were all crying in the theater. He was, if my mom was away with friends or her sisters or wherever, we knew where dad was. He was in the basement watching a James Bond movie with his ice cream. That was where dad was. He was such a simple man. He loved the gospel of Jesus Christ. He loved his kids. His wife was his queen, his everything.
Treated Mary Lee like $1,000,000.
She was gold in his eyes. And he loved his friends, his people, and his James Bond and his house. He was just the most simple, easy to please. Whenever he had a birthday or it was Christmas or Father's Day, I was always like, what do I get him? Because he wanted for nothing. He just needed nothing but the people around him. When I talked to my girls, it was just all these simple things. It was songs. It was Yosh. It was the Beatles. It was, the music.
What's the name of that? The game?
Duddo.
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 I want to go back and recreate Duddo.
Duddo or Poison Pillow.
Yeah, Poison Pillow.
You could play with your darling grandbabies. Yeah, he was just the best. Yes, such a good listener.
And so they'd scurry across, and he'd like
they would hide.
Yeah.
And then he'd be waiting, just on the edge of his seat on the couch.
Yeah.
And they would scurry across, and they would scream, Gramsci, no. And he would just throw the pillows at him.
Oh, funny.
It wasn't pillow. It was anything with him was a favorite.
Check your notes. Are there any other stories?
The one other thing that I wrote down that we had kind of already touched on was that he loved the water. He loved boats. He grew up on a sailboat. He loved to swim. He loved the open water. We vacationed in California a lot growing up, and then continuing on with our kids when he was a grandpa, and he would get us all out in the ocean. And then we would go and we would rent a boat wherever we were, and we would sail. And sailing was that was another passion.
Why do you suppose it was so near and dear to Wed?
I think that it was because it was something that he did with his dad.
Okay.
Because my grandpa was a sailor. They had a boat called...
This is a landlocked state, basically.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
Well, they had a boat called... They had a few boats growing up.
Right.
But they had a boat called Daisy. It was a 45-foot sailboat. Beautiful boat. They had it... it stayed up in Roach Harbor. They had a place on Bainbridge Island in Seattle.
In Washington.
Yes, in Seattle.
Okay.
And they loved the water. They just loved to sail. So I think that's where that came from. That would be my best guess, is just that it was part of his growing up. It was part of his childhood. It was a connection to his parents and mostly his father. I mean, his siblings or my mom could tell that better, but that's what I would guess. And then he just loved to swim. So we would always, I remember one of my more recent memories with him having to do with a boat was we were in Newport Beach. This was a few years before he passed away. And we didn't have a boat of our own, but we were there, and there's the ocean side of the peninsula, and then there's the bay side of the peninsula. And we would go to that bay side, and we would rent a boat, a little sailboat, and he would just sail us all around in the bay. And we would look at those beautiful beach homes, and he would tell stories about sailing with his dad and his brothers. And it was a way, I think, to connect with something he loved about his childhood and the past, and bring us into it.
Really?
Yeah, and I loved that. I loved that.
So I'm even going to tell you a story.
Great.
That Wid told me about his dad. And so I guess his dad was an avid Utah basketball fan, and he had season tickets, and Wid would go up there too. And Wid told me, he said that there was a fan a row in back of where his dad was that was using terrible language.
I know this
terrible
story.
Language.
Keep going.
And so he turned around and I think very nicely said, "Would you please not do that? You know, it's very uncomfortable and it's not becoming." And the guy basically just said, "You know, up yours," you know, and he was even worse. And so then what your grandfather did, and to have Wid tell me the story is really cool. He goes up and you think he's going to go get security. But what he did, this blew my mind, was he bought ice cream bars, and he came back down and he turned around and he handed the ice cream bar to this guy. And I think it reduced the guy to just a quivering mass of protoplasm. And the thing that's interesting is, and I just thought, oh, man, you know, talk about being a peacemaker in troubled times like these times. So, but I just thought that I have loved that story, and I heard it straight from your dad. I just think that that's kind of stock. You know this, but it's the kind of stock that Wid came from. Okay, now a couple of closing. These are hard questions, and you can tell me if you want to pause and get your wits about you. If your dad was somehow magically teleported right here in this chair, this is the first question. What would you say to him?
Wow, Steve, I've never had anyone ask me that. I mean, first I would hug him and I would grab his hands. His hands were one of my favorite things about him. They were so soft. And I would look in his eyes, and I know this sounds cliche, but I would tell him, thank you. Thank you for everything you taught me. Thank you for helping me turn out to be the way that I am. Thank you for the stock, right, that you left me. I mean, he came from his dad. I came from my dad. And I'm so grateful, and I proudly will wear that Warner name the rest of my life. I mean, I'm so grateful. So I think I would tell him thank you. And then I would tell him, I mean, gosh, I want to know what he's doing over there. I want to know what he's doing. Yeah. I feel like at the point that he died, he was so sick that I feel like he felt like there wasn't much else he could do. And I know that the good he's doing on the other side is much more than he could do here physically. I want to know what he's doing, Steve. Yeah. So I think I would hold his hands, and I would tell him thank you, and I would tell him I love him, and I would ask him what he's calling on the other side. Yeah. Cool. Yep.
That's a wonderful answer. And this is maybe an even tougher one. He's here. He's looking at you in his inimitable way. And what do you think he would say to you, Mollie? If he had just a couple of minutes, what do you think he would say to you?
Steve, I think that he would tell me to endure. I think he would tell me to continue to draw close to my Savior. I think he would tell me to keep going. And to never give up, because that's what he did.
Totally what he did.
That's what he did. He never gave up. He would tell me how much he loves me. He would tell me that everything's okay and that everything will be okay. And he would tell me that where he is a better place than I could ever imagine. And so that's why I should keep doing what I'm doing. And that's why I should endure. And that's why I should keep going, because it's all worth it in the end. I feel like he would tell me that he loved me no matter what, because that was the man that he was. He was an unconditional lover. No matter who you were, no matter what you did, you were okay in his eyes. And I think that's what he would tell me.
Wow. Well, this is the first time I've ever cried during an interview, but you know, it's interesting because you had to know Wid, and based on what Mollie has been saying, and based on what I was saying, it was like too good to be true, but it was. That was who he was. And it wasn't like he had the accolades, like you said, of the world. He just loved. Not only did he love his family, his wife, his kids and grandkids, but I think he especially loved Jesus.
He did.
He did. I think that was really the thing that helped get him over the finish line.
I know it was, Steve. That's what he told me.
Oh my gosh.
That's what he told me.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be here and talk about
and it's so interesting because I think that there's so many people like Wid, that they just are these remarkable people who make huge impacts. And as a grandpa, I want to make the same sort of impacts on my grandkids and my kids that Wid has on you.
I know you are, Steve.
Oh, well,
I know you are.
I hope I am.
You are just as fabulous.
Anyway, thank you, Mollie, for
Thank
time.
you, Steve.
Okay.
Thank you.
I've got to go take a nap.
That's it for today's episode of the Grandpa Channel. Leave a review, share it with a friend, or better yet, tell your favorite grandpa. We're on a mission to gather 1 million grandpas, storytellers, wisdom keepers, and lovable wild cards. Until next time, keep the mic hot, the memories fresh, and the jokes just slightly inappropriate. I'm out of here.